Um, okay. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending the part of the world you're joining us from. I am Mazi Chika Austin, and we are here once again to talk, look at issues as they evolve. And one of those things we are to talk this evening is the resurging Igbophobia. That is one of those things we want to talk about this evening. As you can see on your screen, the topic of the moment is what discussing it because is a kind of is a kind of a growing abnormality, a growing social challenge. One would not say is a national thing. It's very important we understand. In fact, as a matter of fact, what is phobia? Phobia simply means a deep hatred to a people, as the case may be. You see, when you identify a people, a race, when you identify a nation, and you decide to not just stereotype, but you decide to take a calculated repressive measures that threatens their lives and their property. That is phobia. And one of those things I want us to talk about this evening, or one of those things I want us to ponder, deliberate on this evening, is the concept of Igbophobia. You see, why this topic is very, very important tonight is because I personally believe every single one of us is a victim of this law. How do I mean? You know, Igbo as a concept, I want you to understand. Igbo as a term has evolved from national identity of a people, identity of a nation, to an ideological drive. I wouldn't want to make this evening's, this moment discussion a, a whole lot of academic discourse or discourses. But I will try as much as possible to make us understand all we are talking about this evening. Of course, you have to share this program so that it can reach out as much people as it can. So, we are talking about Igbophobia, but I want to build a foundation by letting you to understand that Igbophobia is beyond the application of repressive measures against the Igbo nation. It has transcended beyond that. It has moved beyond that. It has moved beyond that because the way the Igbo people reason, the way the Igbo man reasons, have now gone beyond ethnic identity. It has transcended from ethnic identity to an ideology. And it is that ideology that threatens those who are benefiting from the repressive and retrogressive tendencies in Nigeria that they are fighting against. I want you to understand something. You see, people don't understand that a people can evolve, people's way of life can grow beyond the people and become an ideology that anybody can key in. What am I trying to say? Igbo man has an ideology he's entrenching on. Igbo man has a way of life. He has a defined mindset. And what are those defined mindsets? Igbo man believes that you can lord him. That is just it. Irrespective of what you have in possession, you can never lord him. Igbo man believes on enterprising. And that is why, despite where they find themselves, you see them striving to establish an independent outlet or an outfit aside, the salary structures. Also, furthermore, Igbo man believes that you cannot order him on how, when, and what to choose as a better form of life. So these are all ideology. They are all, summarily, we can say they are all independent way of thinking. That is Igbo man. And that ideology have now moved beyond the Igbo circle. That ideology is now being transported, is now being exported to the non-Igbos by ethnic identities. And that is what most of us don't understand. Because when you see a certain individual is attacked, he might not be attacked because he's an Igbo man, but he's attacked because he is parading Igbo ideology. What is those ideology? Ideology of self-reliance, ideology of independence, ideology of having the right to choose whatever he wants. So that is ideology that is facing a strong repulsive measures within the Nigerian space. And that is one thing I want us to take into cognizance this evening before we go to the nitty-gritty of the whole thing. There is a hatred on Igbo man personified. There is also a hatred on the Igbo ideology, which is at the ideological realm. And that is why that ideology, those who felt that it poses a threat on them, are doing everything to make sure that that ideology does not cross beyond so place. And that is what you're seeing in Lagos. The Labour Party candidate is associating with the Igbos because he felt he wants to adopt Igbo ideological identity. His Yoruba, some of the Tinubu supporters are attacking him, not because he's not a Yoruba man. They all know he's a Yoruba man. Breaded Yoruba man. They all are aware. But what are they attacking in him? They are attacking that ideology. The ideology of being independent. Not catching cold because a man called Emiloka is sneezing. That ideology is what they are trying to identify and see way to suppress it. If you also go to Kaduna, for instance, those of them in Kaduna who are trying to define an independent way of life are being attacked by the likes of Erufai, not because they are Igbos. They are not Igbos. But for the fact that they are opening their minds towards the Igbo ideology of independence, Igbo ideology of the right to choose the way of life. And that is what you're seeing happening even in Kaduna State and some other places. So I want you to understand something, because if you don't understand the social science of all this, you get a whole lot of things wrong. You see, when you hear a certain places that certain people are hated, sometimes it does not basically mean that what is hated in them, or they are hated for the human appearance face of it. No. Sometimes they are hated based on the certain ideology they are known for. And that's why languages like this, take for instance, there are Africans, their fellow Africans who always say, you are behaving like a Brit. You're behaving like a Chinese. But these people are not Chinese, neither are they English people. But because they have decided to adopt the English ideological way of doing things, they are now identified as English people. Because they have chosen to behave like Chinese way of, adopt Chinese ideological way of thinking. And you will see somebody will say, you are just a Chinese, even when the person is a black skin fellow. So that is how it works. So what you're seeing in Nigeria today, especially in Lagos, is a kind of counter fight. The lies of Tinubu and those who believe they can build dynasties around themselves, control who breathes and who does not breathe within a particular defined political space, are being so scared. As a matter of fact, what propels hatred is when the one who is hating feels unsafe. So they are not believing that the encroachment of Igbo ideology, the acceptability of Igbo way of life, especially by the upcoming generation of Lagosians, poses a threat to their hegemonic control. I want you to understand this. So this is what is a kind of ideological fight. Understand it. So, and if you look at this ideological fight, or Igbophobic tendencies from ideological dimension, one thing is obvious. They are doing everything possible to fight this fight on various dimensions. I want you to understand something. Because until you are conscious of the modus, until you're conscious of how these things work, you cannot effectively miss it. And that is what I want everyone here to understand. Until you understand the social science of this, you cannot understand how to miss it. You cannot understand how to, recycle it. So, what you're seeing today, especially amongst certain politicians, is the fear of having Igbo's ideological thought, which is thought of freedom, thought of independence, thought of self-reliance, thought of not being under anyone's dictate. They are afraid that if that is not repelled, not through argument, as a matter of fact, not through a higher argument, because they know that when it comes to an argument, they are already flawed, absolutely weak, because they have nothing to argue. On the contrary. So they now believe that the best thing they have to do is to move back to the outdated way of fighting ideology. And what is that? Repressive measures, application of raw power, application of, very, very rude methods. So these are things we are talking about, because they are now feeling that a lot of Lagosians, a lot of people, a lot of youth, even in Nigeria, are beginning to, adopt the way Igbo man reacts, are beginning to adopt, are beginning to reason the way Igbo man reasons, are beginning to have an independent thinking the way Igbo man thinks. So they now believe that this ideology is a threat. It poses a national threat to those elements. And who are these elements? The criminals who have impoverished millions of lives. So when you understand this, then you can now understand the right mechanism to solve the problem. Because it is hard time people begin to think calculatively. People begin to think analytically. People begin to think rationally. Because if you don't rationalize, you can only make noise. Make noise, and you fade off. It's as simple as that. And for your information, phobia, the concept of phobia is not, germane to Igbo nation. I want you to understand that. The concept of phobia is not new. It's not new to socio-political spaces. You have heard about xenophobia. You've heard about even phobia against the Jews. And there are a lot of phobias. And one thing you should understand in phobia is that when phobias are ignited, if it's not properly checked, if it's not properly controlled, it leads to the higher dimension of it, which is massacre or genocide. So that's why you must take it as an interest discourse to begin to study the issue of phobia, especially as we are now seeing that in Lagos State, it's not even non-state actors that are applying the phobia. But we are now seeing that those who have access to state resources, who have access to government machineries, are now trying to instigate phobia. Then you must be worried. You must be, concerned. Why you need to be concerned? Because historical facts have shown that, when the Nazis were not in control of Germany, and there was, a kind of phobia against the Jews in Germany. When the Nazis were not in charge of government, the Jews neglected that. They never cared much until the Nazis took over governance. And what did you see? You saw a Holocaust. Over 6 million Jews were killed. So you must not wait until the biggest consolidate authority, consolidate power. Then you start shouting here and there. You first of all have to study the organic evolution of this. You must be very, very meticulous in understanding it. The behavior of the phobia, the actors of the phobia, the resources at their disposal, and of course, you must have a very critical checkmating of the advances. And that's why we felt it's very important we talk about it. We talk about the growing trend. We discuss it. You must not shy away from it, because if you don't discuss it at the early stage, for those of you who are into medical field, would agree with me that if you don't manage cancer at the early stage, trust me, that negligence is going to cost you your life. That's why it's advised for one to often attend, I think, chemotherapy or something like that. Forgive me if I'm not. Of course, although I have a nurse as a friend, so I will definitely fall back to her, ask her. So, what am I trying to say? If you don't manage cancer at the earlier stage, it is definitely going to ruin you. It is definitely going to take away your life. That is how the issue of phobia works. That is how ethnic stereotyping works. If you don't discuss it, if you don't expose it, if you don't confront it, irrespective of the actors behind it, if you don't dare it, you have in the future a lot of corpses to bury. You now understand what I'm saying? So that is what we're talking about. So that is why we are making a very surgical dissection, analysis of the growing cancer. So what I want us to understand is, because there are a lot of things we are not really getting here. And that's why I said we must take the science of psychological warfare serious. We must understand how it works. We must understand the science of psychological warfare, because most of us do not understand how it works. And that's why most times we are victims. What you're seeing happening in Lagos is not a Yoruba hatred against Nnamdi. I want you to understand something. It's never a Yoruba hatred against Nnamdi. But let me tell you how these things work. It happens like a drop. If nothing is done, it's just like, how will I explain it? If cancer is attacking human cell, I'm not a medical practitioner, so forgive my my analysis if I'm invoking a whole lot of medical allusions and it's not adding up. You have to forgive it. Forgive my my disjointed allusions. Now let me tell you, if cancer wants to attack human cells, it doesn't attack the millions of cells at a go. It doesn't work that way. It first of all starts from one. And if there is no serious medical counter-attack, it does what we call sectorial development. It moves from that one cell to another, to another, to another. It gets to a point. It is also expecting a counter-attack and nothing is happening. It keeps advancing. Before you know it eats up the entire cells and the man dies. What am I trying to say? What you're seeing Tinubu boys and the rest of them doing in Lagos, they are first of all trying to destroy a system, just the way the Nazis did it. The Nazis did not start killing the entire Jews all over Europe. It never started all over Europe. Or what you're seeing as a Nazist operation against the Jews in Europe never started in Germany. That is one thing most of you don't understand. It first of all started even as far as Italy, in Venice. If you remember the Shakespearean novel, The Merchant of Venice, the hatred against the Jews were officially instigated in Venice. Remember the Jewish merchant. And remember how every effort of the Italian government of that time did everything to express. When it happened in Italy, nobody cared to raise alarm. Even the Jews themselves were quiet. Because they felt after it's happening to the merchants, it doesn't concern us. The Jews in Italy were quiet. It's even a non-Jew that even wrote or blow up the hatred. That is one amazing thing I see in history. I keep wondering. It was even a non-Jew, so to say, Shakespeare, that even wrote to raise alarm against the hatred against the Jews. In Italy, the Jews who were living in Italy as at that time, they were on laissez-faire attitude. The anti-Semitic oppression was going on. They never cared. It was a non-Jew that was raising alarm. Then, because the Jews were lackadaisic, they were careless, they were so individualistic in their drive, not thinking about the survival of the Jewish nation. It now happened in France. If you remember the Dreyfus affair, a Jewish military officer was dealt with out of hatred. It happened in France. I think in 1922, if I'm not mistaken. I need to go back to my history date. It's known as Dreyfus affair. And of course, the Jews never even cared raising or fighting back. Then it now blowed up to what we know as, the loss of about 6 million Jews in the hand of the Nazis. The Holocaust. But mind you, it never started in Venice as a Holocaust. Of course, it never started in Venice as a Holocaust. Remember the Merchant of Venice. It never happened in France as a Holocaust. It was just like xenophobia. Xenophobia. It was just a phobia thing. In the Dreyfus affair, it was just a phobia. But the people were lackadaisic. They were so lukewarm. And before you know, it now ignited into Holocaust in Germany. The same thing is playing out in Nigeria, and I want you to understand. You must be critical in your observation. And as a matter of fact, you see, this idea of thinking because it's happening to someone in Lagos, or it's happening against an Igbo man in Lagos, it doesn't concern you. That is the most stupid thing you can ever think of. Because the truth remains, when that xenophobia is perfected, when it's consolidated, it will now move from the hatred on the Igbo man on the street of Lagos to the Igbo man who is even in Asorok. It's organic thing. It grows. So when you now make it a laissez-faire thing, it doesn't concern me. After all, they want to vote. I'm talking about Biafra. It doesn't concern me. That is the most useless thinking line you can ever think of. Because it's going to evolve when it's not checkmated to a point that it will leave the street man and start even haunting you. that is even in government house. If it's not checkmated, if it's not rebuked, if it's not pointed out, it evolved from the point of the man you're seeing in Oshud, in Ikorodu, to the man even in Asoro, who is an Igbo man. So that's why the mindset of it doesn't concern me. I'm asking for Biafra, whatever they see. That is the most stupid thing you can ever do. The Jews did it in Venice, in Italy, when it was hitting the merchants of Venice. They said, no, he's the businessman that was affected. It has nothing to do. They tried it in Dreyfus affairs in France. The Jewish military officer in French army. They tried it on him, and the Jews said, no, he's an army man. After letting him die, he's working with they now did it in the entire Europe, known as the Holocaust. The Holocaust never separated whether you were a Jew working in the family, whether you were a Jew doing business, whether you were a Jew working in government, irrespective of where you are, as far as you are a Jew, you are pointed out and eliminated. So that's why the worst thing that can ever happen to a nation is for them to divide themselves on every line. Even though you think you're wise because you're pursuing Biafran cause, and those who are being attacked, those Igbos who are being attacked in Lagos because they decided to, try political measures. Even though you think they are foolish and you are the wise person, your wisdom is not quantified, or your wisdom is not ideal when your wisdom cannot be used to even protect, to defend, to shield your own people. You felt they were foolish. You get what I'm saying? Because your wisdom should protect. Your wisdom should also project. So these are one thing I want you to understand. So now, this is it. We must understand what is happening. The homophobia you're seeing in Nigeria is not a Yoruba thing. Let nobody deceive you. There's a Yoruba thing. It's never a Yoruba thing. But what they are trying to now is to stay strong. If they do it and nobody rebukes them, if they do it and people cowardly run away from them, then you will not see some people who are sitting on the fence, who are observing. These people were dealt with in so place, nothing happened. You will not see them accepting it as a norm. They can only accept it as a norm when you decide to be passive. You cannot afford to be passive, as a matter of fact. Because, Igbo man by nature does not easily submit. And of course, as a matter of fact, why would someone even submit on something he's not cleared of? You cannot do that. You can do that to other people, but not an Igbo man. And what they are now trying to do ahead of time is to instill fear on us, because they believe we are very, very stubborn nation. We are not people you can just subjugate. Tell us sit down, we sit down. You cannot do that. So what they are now trying to do ahead of their government, let us see if we can instill fear in them. But is that on arrival? They would have succeeded on that if in Igbo land we only have Ohanese who are only interested in going to collect money. But the truth is this: those mainstream structures, those mainstream stooges are no longer effective in the land. Because a certain generation of Igbo people have defined a cause for themselves, and they have created a front for themselves to fight their haters, to fight those who bring fight to them, not to be cowards. You get what I'm saying? So we must understand that. So now let's see various mechanisms they are trying to entrench. As a matter of fact, I want you to understand something. You see, the only race I see that underrates their power, their resources is the Igbo race. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for us to think, that we don't have enough energy, synergy to, drive our cause. It breaks my heart. Historically speaking, there is no nation under the sun. I stand to be challenged. Of course, Mazi Nnamdi can always tell us to be submissive to a higher constructive argument. Historically speaking, there is no race in the world that have passed through what Nnamdi will pass through and still remain relevant, except the Jews. Every other race went into extinction. Extinction basically might not really mean the human appearance extinction, but what I mean, extinction of relevance. There's no other race. And that's why, whether you like it or not, the matrix of them stripping you everything, taking everything from you in 1970, only for you to now be at par with them in 2023 is a shock to them. No race have ever experienced that and survived except the Jews. And I want to tell you something you don't know. You see, when you hear, so many of you, if you hear languages like English language like balkanization, you hear language like as such, balkanization. People don't understand the etymology of that word. Etymology, I mean the origin of that word. There is a race known as the Balkans. What this race suffered was very, 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 very shocking. The Balkans, as the case may be, they were splitted into pieces. Until today, they've not regained from that shock. And that's why in English language, when you want to talk about piecing a thing or dividing things, you use the word balkanization. Because it came from the word the Balkans. The Balkans were, divided into pieces. And today they have not recovered that. That is where the etymology of the word balkanization, to balkanize things, And the same thing would have been our fate. I still don't understand, as a matter of fact, the matrix, the mysteries behind us recuperating and measuring up to where we are today. I don't understand the mystery. Maybe those who have a deeper understanding of mysticism and other higher metaphysical studies can tell. But I don't understand how we came up from that within a short time, build up our land, moved on, and start even having a voice. So to those, to the actors who acted that script, they don't feel safe. Because let me tell you one thing you should understand. Every single individual who scripted the stripping of the Igbos, their properties, their well-beings after the Civil War, every single individual who supported that script, none of them has a family that is better than Igbo race. No, no, no. Go and make a research. You know better than I what our Awolowo family looks like. You cannot count any successful name or Awolowo descendant that is doing amazingly well. Absolutely not. So that there is this, why we have moved on with the reality, those who acted all those things are still being haunted by their yesterdays. So, as a result of fear, as a result of fear of insecurity, fear of vengeance, that is what you're seeing. So, what are they trying to do? I want you to understand something very, very important. There was a deep conspiracy. When I mean a deep conspiracy, the conspiracy was so deep in a way that there was a tripod faces at which they wanted to stop an Igbo man. Tripod faces. And these tripod faces were properly orchestrated, were properly hatched. All of a sudden, those conspiracies were deflected. I want you to follow carefully. The essence of telling you all these things for you to understand the behavior of the phobia. Because if you don't understand the behavior, you won't know how to solve it. For you to first of all solve an ailment, for you to first of all solve a disease, that disease, there must be a sample. The sample of that disease must be subjected into laboratory analysis. The whole thing you see lab technicians do is to study the behavior of the disease, and understand how those diseases or viruses, how they respond to any antidote exposed to them. Because you cannot solve a problem. This is one thing our people don't understand. Our people are very, very ignorant of understanding the importance of understanding the behavior of a problem. Go to social media, you see everybody is lifting up what is happening in Lagos. How many of us have taken time to ask questions? Who are the actors? What are their resources? What are their approach? What did they intend to achieve? Nobody is asking these questions. These are core questions you should ask before you even come up with a solution. These are core questions. You can never solve a problem without first of all understanding the behavior of that problem. Because every problem is organic in nature. Is a kind of organism. You must understand the behavior. You must understand the behavior of that problem. And until we start having men and women who can separate out themselves, investigate, study about a behavior or a threat against us and know how to solve it. You see, for your information, every disease is not meant to solve with a universal approach. That is where we're getting it wrong. Because sometimes we apply a certain approach in a particular problem, it works. And we think if we also use that approach in another problem, no, it doesn't. The antidote of a disease is different from antidote of virus. For instance, if one is attacked with malaria. You can be ministered with drugs, and it goes. That is malaria. Now, if another person is attacked with virus, you don't need drug. What you need is vaccines. So the two are problems, no doubt about that. The behaviors of these problems are not the same. Because their behaviors are not the same, you must also understand the right antidote to the problem. That's why the drug for malaria can never be applied to a virus patient. They differ. And also, you should also understand that there are certain problems that don't need physical attack. It just needs media attack. This is one thing our people should start. We have to bring down our head down and start understanding various tactics of war. There are battles you don't need physical attack to solve. You need a media attack. Even at that media attack, you don't even need media attack, so to say. You need a campaign, awareness campaign. You need to open the eyes of the youth. Take, for instance, the xenophobia you're seeing in Lagos State. If you don't understand the behavior, you will start attacking the generality of Yoruba people. Of course, Yoruba people are not endorsing that. Afenifere is not endorsing it. A lot of notable Yoruba sons and daughters are not into that nonsense. But because you don't understand how these things, you were so careless and lazy to study the behavior of the virus, you start using an insecticide, spraying randomly. You will end up messing the whole thing up. So the first of all, you have to identify the actors. The actors are Tinubu and the touts. To the touts, do you need to attack them? The touts need to be awakened. They need to be informed. Their eyes need to be opened. But to the Tinubu and his group, do you need to open their eyes? No, you don't need to open their eyes because they're already bigger. So you need a media attack. You need to take the war on their pages. Same problem, different approach. You cannot come and say the Yoruba people. Of course. My ego diary is a Yoruba man. Obasanjo is also a Yoruba man who is supporting Peter. And a lot of them. The guy contesting as a Lagos State governor under APC is under Labour is a Yoruba, and a lot of them. It's only Igbo people that voted that gave Peter be winning in Lagos. Lie. There are Yoruba people who also want the change. So because you refuse to grow mentally, and you now do what we call sporadic shooting, is called, you're going to end up giving yourself, inflicting yourself. So you must, as a matter of fact, you see, in military science, there's a concept that is called surgical operation. Let me tell you, most of us, you see, as the time progresses, maybe I will start speaking Igbo in my program so that our people will understand. When most of you hear the word guided missile, countries will tell you that we use a guided missile. You don't know how that idea came. You see, before the invention of guided missile, countries use missiles anyhow. They can bomb anywhere, and when immediately they are dropping those bombs or those ordinances, they take into action what they call collateral damage. What is collateral damage? They kill both the innocent and those who are not innocent. Now, look at the implication. Because The bombs they dropped, they killed both the innocent and those who are not innocent. What happens is that those who were innocent, who survived from the collateral damage, or their family members, do you know what they do? They began to grow hatred towards the entity or the state that dropped those bombs. Because they began to grow hatred, they even support the enemy to fight the state. So, no country wants to create more enemies. Rather, they want to win friends. Even among their enemies, they want to uproot members of their enemies as friends. So, because countries have now begun to see that we are using bombs and bombs are killing even innocent people, and those innocent people decide to turn as an arch enemy to revenge. And no country survives that. Now they came up with the idea of, let us see how to build a weapon that if we are targeting Mr. A, let it hit the Mr. A, and the Mr. B, who is not our enemy, will be safe. Rather, he will watch and see how dangerous our weapons are. Because we use our weapon to take away Mr. A from existence. Save Mr. B. Then Mr. B will understand that we are dangerous. And because we never hurted him, he will never plot anything against us. That was how they built guided missile. Guided missile is that when they release it, they make sure that the missile is guided towards the target. You now understand. The same thing applies to what is happening in Lagos. If we don't use guided missile by attacking the core pushers, the core elements, which are, you see, the APC gangsters in Lagos. If we don't understand the concept of surgical operation, hitting the right target, we end up messing the whole place up. You call Yoruba, and because you are accusing a people who are not, even when you have a lot of friends among them, what happens is that you have naturally pushed them to join the few enemies, thereby growing large the camps of the small enemy. You don't know that indirectly, ignorantly, you have expanded the camps of your enemy, thinking you're doing the right thing. So that is why this is a very serious battle that requires technicality, that requires intelligence, and what have you. So we must understand how these things work. We must understand how it works. Now, let's look at various, I was talking about tripod attempts to restrict an Igbo man. And I told you politically, the concept have been get them outside the political space totally. You know, and what they felt is that if they get the Igbo nation out of the political space, it will not help them to control, to decide, to marshal a policy without their contribution. People don't understand that since 250, Igbo man has never neared the legislature, the executive, or even top judiciary position since 2015. And that operation was properly arranged to weaken an Igbo man politically. One thing people don't understand further is this. You see, those who are advancing the cause of jihad, Islamization, they all understand that the only challenge they are facing from overrunning Nigerian state is the Igbo man. For Yoruba man, at least they have achieved 50% Islamization agenda. And of course, it's expanding every day. Yes, it's expanding because to the Yoruba man or woman who is a Christian, he needs not, he shouldn't, he believes he cannot die for the cause of Christianity. At worst, he's proscapes after his mother is a Muslim, while his father is a Christian. So it's something they have really, really married together or blended together. So those who are projecting Islamization and their foreign sponsors now believe that the best or the only identified opposition facing them is the Igbo nation. And the best way to do is, first of all, to weaken them on three fronts: political, economic, and religion. Since 2015, no Igbo man has been brought closer to either top security architect, either through the top executive force, judiciary, or legislature. Go and make a research since 2015. And don't think that it was a calculated, miscalculated move. No, it wasn't. It was properly hatched operation. They never did it because they hated you. They did that because they want to get you off their way. Because they understand how opposing you are. And you can see what is happening. They have selected Tinubu and given him, announced him a winner. And all they are doing currently is they're already on the plan to make sure they also advanced what Buhari could not achieve politically. After all, as a matter of fact, they felt, in the entire East, they have PDP governors and politicians who will do their way. But thank God, somehow, something came up. It looks that even their stooges in East, the obedience boys dealt with them, showed a whole lot of them exit point. In fact, at least they were shaken to the foundation. At least they were shaken to the foundation. We are not participating on their political space, but at least the obedient people did a good job by shaking the stooges even in East. So that really got them angry. But what they saw in presidential election forced them to sit up to reality. So politically, they feel they can sideline the Igbo people so that when they are advancing, if they are talking about Ruga, nobody to oppose them on the political space. If they are talking about this, after they have people in East, they have given a position. But thank God for the rigidity, that is currently going on. So that is how God wants it. Economically, they felt also they can do a job economically to sideline her. But the truth is, I want everybody to understand something. Let me tell you. You see, the bedrock of every economy is what we call micro and medium scale enterprise. That is the foundation of every nation's economy, whether it's an advanced economy or developing economy. It doesn't matter. If you want to destroy that economy, attack the small and medium, the micro economic front of that economy. And immediately that microeconomic phase of that economy is touched, that nation is in problem. And one thing that is really worrying them is that the Igbo nations are in charge of Nigerian microeconomic economy or small and medium scale enterprise. The Igbo man have organically evolved in taking control of that base. So it's suicidal for you to think you want to pull him out. You want to if you tamper that set of the economy because you want to witch hunt him, everything from the roof will go down. It becomes so suicidal. You understand what I'm saying? That is where the whole problem they are facing. Because what makes a country viable, the foundation of every nation's economy lies on small and medium scale enterprise. So if you hit it, the country is gone. So surprisingly to them, they understand that if they attack the Igbo man economically, the country will collapse. Let me give you an instance. Let me just give you an instance. You see, in business environment, one of the advanced things you see is manipulations or shortchanging. And these things can only happen when there is hostility, environmental hostility. When an environment becomes hostile, man by nature began to devise a means to survive. That is a natural phenomenon. There's nothing you can do about it. If there is fire in your house, the first thing you do is to, first of all, get out of the house. There's no two ways about it. Even in US economy today that is as advanced as it is, there's still smuggling routes. If you check the Mexico, Texas area, they are all smuggling routes. People smuggle cheap products, people smuggle in marijuana, people smuggle in all kinds of things. These are a highly advanced economy. Even in the same United States, China also smuggles in substandard products. This is an advanced economy. So, there was a time when Buhari came, he felt he was going to witch hunt an Igbo man by seizing seizing forests, stopping Igbo traders from accessing forests. That is, having enough dollars to buy for their businesses. Do you know what the Igbo people did? I'm saying it because Buhari's government is ending. If not, I wouldn't have said it, but it's supposed to be a highly classified thing. Because the environment became hostile, the Igbo men began to use their naira to buy a whole lot of sefa from Benin Republic, from Togo, and all the rest of it. Even buying cedis. And when they buy those ones, then they buy dollars. They buy forests from those countries and get out and go and get whatever they want. Naira became so weak because much naira was chasing those neighboring countries' local currencies. Those countries' local currency became so strong. That was how Ghanaian cedi began to appreciate, because a lot of Igbo businessmen and women who could not access forests in Nigeria takes their naira to Ghana, buy cedi, because a lot of money is chasing cedi now. Cedi began to appreciate more than naira, and naira became so weak. In fact, naira died courtesy of one man's attempt to wicked a people who are in charge of microeconomic lifeline of a country. I will not give you other examples because they are very, very technical and very, very advanced. I just give you a peripheral one you can easily understand. So, the more they want to attack Igbo economy, the more they realize that they are putting the whole nation in mess. And of course, you can see 8 years of Buhari's attempt to weaken Igbo turns out making his government one of the most useless governments you can ever see, count in Nigerian history. And of course, religiously, his 8 years could not establish his attempt to Islamize the Igbo nation. It was knocked off. In fact, as a matter of fact, the few Igbo people who are talking about being Muslims is basically on contract because they want to access contract, because they want to cash out from it. So that is one thing I want you to understand. So what am I trying to say? We must understand all these things. Because if you don't understand this, you start fighting a battle, defining a battlefront on the wrong lines. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. You must be wise. You must be very, very meticulous. You must be very, very discretional. Not careless thoughts, opening mouths and talking like an idiot. No. Let me give you an instance. Because you see, if we don't guide our people, if we don't shape in our mindset, we end up messing a whole lot of things up. Do you know that Israel and Iran are arch enemies? They hate each other. I mean Israel and Iran. But do you know Israel cannot kill an ordinary Iranian? Because if any day Israel kills an ordinary Iranian, the entire Iranians will unite against Israel. But what Israel does in Iran is what we call surgical operation. Israel identifies Iranian scientists, top Iranian military officers, and attack them, not the man on the street. And that is what we need to be doing. What is happening in Lagos? There are actors. Both the key and non-key actors should be identified and the war taken to them, not an ordinary Yoruba one. Because an ordinary Yoruba man is also suffering from the same Tinubu hegemonic control. And he wants freedom. So if he's not copying from you, if he wants to reason the way you reason, if he wants to think independently the way you think, and all of a sudden you are not generalizing that he's also as stupid as Tinubu and others, that means you get it wrong. He will automatically, build up defensive lines. That is one. So we should understand those who are driving this homophobia. They are mainly the elites. As a matter of fact, they are not elites. I don't call them elites because elitism has to come with integrity. Sadly, none of them have it. So it's mainly on these gangsters controlling the nation, So their fear of losing their control. So that's why you see them. People do not understand that what these elites do most times is that when they see that there is a fear, they try to build ethnic lines to divide the people. But let me tell you the fate of all this. The fate of this is that it's going to unify the Igbo race. Because whether you like it or not, Igbos and the Yoruba people are the only ethnic group in Nigeria that have what it takes to end Nigeria any day they desire to. Any day they desire. Yes, they have the resources. We see, people do not understand. People do not understand something. What you're seeing happening in Lagos is a stepping stone to strong unification because Igbo population is highly ideologically divided. People say it's hatred. It's not hatred. People don't understand the difference between hatred and ideological divide. You see, when you don't understand the differences of these two, you just interchangeably use them as one. They are not one. Igbos, they don't hate themselves. What Igbos are experiencing is what we call ideological divide. Let me explain it to you. There are certain Igbo people who believe that they can have a new Nigeria. And when you ask them, they say because Igbos have invested a lot in Nigeria. For that reason, let us look for a better Nigeria. Let us work for a good Nigeria where they can live. Chicken. Now, don't call their idea foolish. It's never foolish because everyone's idea is sacrosanct to him or her, just the way my own is. So, what they need is a better argument and circumstances that will make them understand that the angle at which they are seeing things is not even the right angle. So you need to give them a higher argument. One, two, you have to pray for circumstances that can force them to wake up. It's not germane to us. It's not only us, it did happen. The Jews in Europe they were not interested for state of Israel. Those of them who were fighting for state of Israel, the Zionists, were proscribed. Their fellow Jews encouraged for their proscription. They were heavily maligned, and their fellow Jews supported it. Why? Because their fellow Jews, those who supported it, were those who were working with European government. They had a very good official position. So many of them were doing businesses. So they felt, why are we talking about the state of Israel when things are better for us? When we might have invested heavily in Europe. They never saw reason on the establishment of state of Israel or pursue for that project. They never saw reasons. But do you know what? Because the Holocaust came, because they were heavily, dealt with by the Holocaust, because the Holocaust, destroyed a whole lot of them and their lives. Do you know what happened? All of them began to line behind the idea of the state of Israel. Simple as that. All of them who once time or the other fought against the establishing of state of Israel began to line behind it because circumstances, situation provided for that. And that is one thing I want you to understand. When it comes to Igbo investment locally, Igbos have heavily invested in Lagos and Abuja. In Kanu, they are not much that in Kanu because of various crises in Kanu force a whole lot of them to repatriate their resources off Kanu and even Kaduna. So most of them have not really billions of naira, sunk in North as such because issue of Boko Haram and the subsequent crisis had forced them, to be reasonable. That is the woman for them. So many of them relocated. Now, in Lagos, they have a high concentration of their resources. Same in Abuja. Now, you cannot get them out of Lagos by conducting anointing service. Anointing service does not work on the brain of an Igbo man. No, it doesn't. You cannot get them out of Lagos. You cannot force them out of their home by asking for benediction on their head. Benedictions don't work on them. It is situations like this. It is situations like this that will make some of them to start building 5 years project of relocation and redeployment of their resources. That is just what it is. So if you think you can be talking about Biafra, 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 then you have an Igbo man getting out of Lagos. It can never happen. Remember, he never left Kanu until the land became hot for him. And so on and so forth. So what the situation now is going to pave way. Because by the time they start thinking home, each and every one of them in Lagos currently, one common thing that is going on in their mind is that I wish, after all, I have a home, I have a place. And you cannot see them start thinking positive about their land. Because for me, I have a whole lot of cousins, of course, maternal cousins. They were born and bred in Lagos. So many of them, if you tell them about home, they believe when they come home, they all die. That is how most of them, their minds were ruined. So, but the situations happening will now make some of them to start coming home. By the time they come home, they discover that there is no death sentence on anyone. And of course, that is where IPOB leadership also have to maintain a very good work, because IPOB leadership has to maintain a well-scam environment for our people. There's no two ways about it. You cannot ask people to come home and animals are busy rampaging the environment. They will prefer to die there. And so far so good. I'm really, really impressed how the leadership have used wisdom according to the request of Nnamdi by saying, let Biafran land be calm. We must maintain level of calmness in the land. And of course, when we want to fight, we fight a surgical operation. Not what the idiots we are doing, who call themselves autopilot, we are doing, destroying, even killing our own people. Those madness must stop. Because if you build a well secured land, naturally people will just pull out and get here. And when people are around, you can do a better fight, because you have a less human resources to lose. So that is it for us. So what we are saying today, I want you to understand something, is going to unify a whole lot. If you watch the Igbo woman in UK Parliament raising a question raised by Nnamdi in UK, see, we have a whole lot of resources. Human capital index is high on our side. We have human resources, we have capital resources to drive down our costs. But let me tell you, because there are certain elements who have connections, who have the contact, but they believe they can build a good, they can build a better Nigeria. So it is better that those they believe they can build a good society for are not ready for it. It's better for them to be convinced through what is happening, like as is happening in Lagos. It's better that they are now seeing that when you talk about better Nigeria, when an Igbo man is talking about better Nigeria, others are feeling that is Igbo dominance ideology. That's what they're saying. So until these are people who have the resources are well convinced there is an aberration, is a horse to talk about building a better Nigeria, they will never bank on what we are doing. We have people in the United States, we have people in Europe, we have people all over the world who have the contact, who have the resources to press on. But because they are still contemplating, because they are still wondering, on the possibility of building a better Nigeria, which is a delusion today. So we must understand when things are evolving, we must understand when things are happening, and we must know how to maximize it. You see, the worst thing that can ever happen to somebody is when one lacks understanding of maximization. You must have the ability to maximize events when events are evolving, because you cannot stop events from evolving. There is no way you can stop the day from breaking. There's no way you can stop human activities not showing up. There's no way you can stop humanity from emitting mess. There's no way. Those things you cannot control, you leave it to fate. Then areas you can control, you have to maximize it. There is no way we can stop hatred on Igbo nations, because whenever you're good, you just have to get enemies. It's a natural thing. Hatred simply is an insecurity felt by those you are better than. Is a natural thing. So there's no way you can stop anyone from hating you. But there is a way you can convert those hatred to your own advantage. And that is where I want us to be much interested. So we shouldn't give, a much concern when we see a certain attempt. Because some of these things can only draw our people closer to the Biafran project. Take it or you leave it. Some of these things can only draw them closer to the Biafran project. So we have spent about, I think, an hour, almost going to an hour and 30 minutes. So I want to thank every single one of us for your time. I want to say thank you. And we must, like I said, we must be smart. Also, try to share this program, because a lot of people need to understand what we're talking about this evening. So we must be smart. There is nothing wrong on anybody hitting you. There is nothing wrong about it. Where the wrong falls in is your inability to maximize that hatred. If you cannot maximize that hatred, then something is wrong. So from here, I want to say good night and do enjoy your night.